Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again on today's edition of the Abroad Life. My name is Yemi, and with me today, as usual, is Ahmed.
Ahmed, I'm here.
Nice. How was
Kind
your
of,
week? How is your
kind
week
of.
going?
I mean,
Today is
it's
Friday already.
today's Friday, so it's end of
Yeah.
the week, so it's weekend
Cool.
already. Going. I mean, it was busy, but also fine. Yeah. How was
Cool.
yours?
Cool. Nice. Good. Yeah. Happy. It was a very interesting week, no doubt. Yeah. So let's just get into it. Today we are going to be discussing how to get into a US school as a graduate student or even as an undergrad without actually paying a dime. I'm sure there are a lot of Nigerians,
That would be
young guys out
interesting.
there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Because money is always a big factor for a lot of people when it comes to getting admission abroad. Some people just think, okay, what if I get the admission? Where does the money come from? How do
absolutely.
I fund this education? So
Yeah.
that's
So I believe it's really going to be interesting, very insightful. We are going to walk our audience through what are the opportunities. Like there are some cool, maybe let me say hidden opportunities that people don't know about. To your point, you can actually get to go to school almost free, if not totally free, without breaking a bank, without any hassle, just through hard work, being smart, and just knowing what you're doing. So my first question, Ahmed, would be what is the average cost of going to a US school? Let's say as an MBA or as a master's student, what does it cost?
I mean, that's a loaded question because it depends on the program, right?
Yep.
But
On the average.
I got an MBA in the US, so if you're thinking about an MBA degree, you should be thinking north of 100,000 US dollars. So it could be 120. For me, it was okay. That was tuition plus all other fees over the course of 2 years. Okay, so that was
Okay.
my tuition. But for some undergrad programs, ultimately they might add up to that because for a year it could be, say, 25, 30K. By the time you spread that, by the time you multiply that over 4 years, then you're having the case. So it depends on the program, really. So it
Cool.
could be
Yeah.
quite low
So,
today.
I would say on the average, if you focus on master's program like MBA, I would say, let's say within a range of 100 to 150, or let's say 100 to 200,000, depending on the school, depending on the duration and other associated costs, like you said. So I know a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Africans, people in Ghana, I'm sure they're punching their calculator now, they are converting 1,007 times and oh God, these guys want to break the bank.
40K times.
Absolutely.
I did the math in my head then.
Yeah, it's a
I
lot
was
of
talking
money.
to one of my classmates when I got to the US and also a Nigerian. And it was like, I wish they had sent this money to us. I mean, for those of us with scholarship, like,
So that's
we could have sent this money. I was like, then it was just 70 million naira. I thought, like, that's not a lot of money.
yeah.
It could look like that now. So, but what will you do with 70 million naira? Unless you have like additional income. But so I digress. So let's go back to the main topic.
So I mean, the main point for me, the point I was going to hammer on is there's no point doing the conversion or doing the calculation, right? So, and I think that's where the journey starts. You need to start.
If you're paying yourself, you have to do the conversion.
I mean,
If you're paying out of pocket.
my point is, okay, well, if you are paying out of pocket, so
Yeah.
I mean, let's just go straight into it. What are the options available now? I've gotten admission. My bill is 50K. I need living expense. I'm going to be living abroad. I'm paying every month. What are the options I made? Tell me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options.
5 options. I'm not
that
sure.
I need to navigate.
I'm not sure there are many. There are as many as 5 options. But I mean, based on my experience and the people around me that I know, I mean, almost everyone that I know went through their education, paying through scholarships, student loans, and getting campus jobs to fund their education. I think those three, I mean, it could be one or a combination of those three that I've mentioned. Those are the three key options that are available to anyone: scholarship, student loans, and getting a job on campus to fund your education.
Yeah. So basically 3 options. I would say fellowship award, but they are quite related to scholarships too, because once you start applying, you will see different fellowship program, fellowship award. They give you some stipends and all of that. So, but basically you have scholarships, you have student loan, then you have student jobs, right? Getting a job, the 20-hourly job that you do in school. So I want us to talk briefly about scholarships. I know this is something like a lot of viewers want to hear about. I'm sure we'll find a whole episode, like a whole, episode of this program to actually do deep dive into scholarship. But maybe you want to talk briefly about scholarship, then we can go to student loans and take people try to navigate that.
Yeah, scholarship. I don't think we can cover everything on scholarship in one sitting, one recording like this. So, but I mean, there are many scholarship options out there, and there are different categories of scholarship. Some they are need based. You have to demonstrate that you need this money to. If you don't get this money, you can't take this offer. You can accept this offer to come study, like in the US, and you just have to show that you really need that money. There are other ones like merit based that regardless of whether you need it or not, if you just meet specific criteria, like maybe you excelled academically, depending on the kind of scholarship. So these scholarships usually have their target students. Like, okay, these are the kind of students. There are some that target demography or specific community. It could just be women's scholarship, for example, the Forte scholarship. I think I mean they focus more on women, or maybe just mainly target women. There are some that could just be you're like first college graduate in your family, that kind of thing. So they target those guys. So you just need to read through all the scholarship options that are available for the kind of degree you're trying to get
in your school.
And yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean the school.
Okay.
I mean, your school will probably give you a list of, if it's a good school, they'll probably give you a list of scholarships.
That should be your approach, right? Because I'm trying to really demystify, like break it down for people, right? So that you don't just like, where do I even go look for those scholarships,
that's
right?
not what we're trying to discuss in this. I mean, right? So
okay,
that's
I get
why
your point.
I'm not getting deep into all of that. Like just explaining the kind of scholarships that are out there. And some, once you apply for admission, they consider you for those scholarships automatically. Like, and that's the kind of one that I got. I didn't have to apply for the scholarship separately. Just apply for the admission, and you're considered for some categories of scholarships. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, thanks. So that's exactly the point I was trying to make. Like most times, you get introduced to those scholarships by your school, like most times. So, but again, viewers out there just know like there's going to be a full edition where we go like dive deep into scholarship. Probably we might even bring an expert again or something, like people to just share, some of their experiences navigating scholarship and all of that. I'm sure it's something you don't want to miss. But Ahmed, I want us to talk about getting student loan. This is something that is not unusual. Like even when you get scholarship, right, like you might still need to like get some extra fund, right? And the fact that you have an admission, right? Getting an admission is just like having a visa or having a ticket to travel somewhere. Like it's just like it gives you like an access, right? A lot of people don't know like the fact that you have an admission already might even qualify you for applying to those loans. But I will leave it to you. I want us to talk about student loan. What is student loan? What is the requirement for student? Then how do you access it?
So this is a bit I mean, it's not that straightforward when it comes to
Let it be straightforward.
No, it's not that straightforward when it comes to student loan for international students, because there are a lot of criteria that are set. I mean, if you're just giving out money as loans for people that are not citizens of your country that might leave at any time, so you want to put a lot of guardrails, a lot of measures in place to make sure that at least your money is secured to a large extent. So that's why the application process it's kind of challenging for internationals. So there are we don't have a lot of options out there as internationals in terms of like providers willing to give us loans, right? So I mean, when I was trying to get admission, then there was Prodigy, there was what's the other one? There was Prodigy, there was Discover, and there was I'm trying to remember. It has a name similar to a program in Nigeria. Like there's a program where Oshibaji was giving people money. Yeah, like I'm trying to remember the name. So there were three of them like that. Discover,
Empower, right?
Empower. Yeah, so the Empower. Like so, that's the name I was trying to remember. So, and they all have different criteria, right? But the one thing that is common to all of them, like the majority of them, is they want you to have the credit history. So, but with us, like example, I don't know about other countries like Ghana or South Africa or any other, but for Nigerians, it's not something that we've been doing for a long time, having credit report. And when we do have credit history or credit report, we don't even know what's in there, right? So when you request this for the first time, and the thing is, it's not enough to even get that credit report. There must be history on it. So if you're just generating the report for the first time and there's no history of having taken loan, paid back the loans, or paying, like having irregular payment, because that's one signal that, okay, this person is creditworthy and will pay back once they see the history. That, for example, it could be as simple as maybe rent that you've been paying consistently, or maybe just credit card that you've been paying back consistently. So it's a bit challenging getting loans. But if when you're doing your research about schools, and that's one of the things that I did when I was looking for a school, I looked for schools that do co-sign loans for international students. So my school did that. So when I don't qualify on my own, say as an international student, you don't qualify on your own based on not having a social security number, having a credit history, your school, you could get a co-signer. So that's like a guarantor in most places in the world, like a co-signer that guarantees that you're going to pay back that loan. If you don't pay back, it falls on them to start paying back that money, right? So
what is the criteria for a co-signer, if I can just
usually to be a co-signer, you have to be a permanent resident or a citizen of the United States. Yeah, to be a co-signer for someone. And another challenge with it is when you co-sign for someone, it also gets on your own record like you are both taking that loan, right? So it gets on your record. If the person defaults, it affects your own credit score, credit report. And so not a lot of people will be willing to co-sign for you. But when I was doing my research, I found out that, okay, there are schools that could co-sign loans for you because they're so confident that you get a job and you pay back, right? So they'll co-sign, and my school did that. So I got even though I had a scholarship, I still needed extra money for like living expenses, and I had dependents and that I had to get care for. So I still took extra money in form of loan, and my school co-signed for that. So when you're searching, try to investigate whether it's possible for your school to co-sign your loan, especially when you are still back in Nigeria and you're trying to apply for that loan. It's so challenging getting anything. But if your school does that, or you know someone that could co-sign for you, that's usually the best approach. But that doesn't mean you can't apply to those Discover. I think Discover even stopped giving student loan, like I think this year or last year, I can't remember when. So Prodigy, Empower, and any other options out there. Or it could even be banks back in your own home country. But
I mean,
I don't know whether
I
they will
wouldn't.
be willing to give you that much money to come study
I
in the
wouldn't even advise. I don't know if it would be a cool advice to ask that you collect money from in naira, to fund your
Exactly.
overseas. Like it's not really going to. I don't think it's a wise thing. But
I mean,
again,
it's cool. It's cool benefit. It depends on what happens to the naira, right?
right. So
I mean, if I
if you end up
collected
earning in dollars, like
exactly
you have more
dollars
money to
and
pay.
now, I mean, look at the time I started my MBA
Yeah.
compared to now, like the value of dollar to naira, like the exchange rate had like doubled or maybe tripled since then, right? So now if I earn money, I could pay back easily what I
Yeah.
like. So
Yeah. But
it's like,
Ahmed,
yeah,
the reality is that most Nigerian banks. I mean, I'm
no, they're
involved
not
in
going to
some
give
of
you
it.
that
They are
money.
not going
Like,
to give you,
no, they're not
especially
going to give you
once
the
you are
money
stepping out of
out of the
Nigeria.
country. Yeah,
I wonder what kind of guarantor you will have in Nigeria that they will give you money
exactly.
when you are stepping out. So I think like to just put things into perspective,
Yeah,
the insight I can draw from what you said is like, okay, look at Prodigy, look at Empower,
yeah,
look at Discover. Mostly talk to your school that you need funds, that you need
exactly.
loan. Talk
Yeah,
to your school. If you are not getting all the 100% scholarship, talk to your school. They'll be able to provide. I mean, they have a finance
guidance.
unit, right? They have
Yeah,
this, units where they can help you, give you that counseling that you need. But just know, like, getting student loan is possible. And what do you need? Your admission letter, like
yeah,
admission letter, your passport, like those basic things shows that yeah, you are ready. You already have the admission, and you
yeah,
are, really, really planning ahead of that journey. But I think most importantly, one thing that you said that really stood out to me is having a credit history, right? So,
yeah,
and this is the way I'm viewing it now. Like, I think, was it the last edition we're talking about? If you are planning to go abroad to study, it's something you have to plan, like, right? It involves a lot of mental plan. You need to like build a mental model. And one of the things you need to do, like, if you're going to do it next year, you start planning from this year. What are the things you need to start doing now? There are things within your control that you can do. And one of them is this issue of credit history, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it. So if you're in Nigeria, you pay your electricity bill, you pay your energy bill, right? And your rent. You have a bank, go to your bank, take soft loans from your bank. Even if you have the money to pay your electric bill, energy bill, as the case may be, take a loan, take a soft loan, right? Pay every month. So use the money to service those bills every month, up to 50, 60, 100,000. Then
Just pay
use
the
your
loan back from your
salary
salary.
or
Yeah.
use your income
Yeah.
to just do that, right? Don't
Absolutely.
say because you have that income, you're just taking care of your bills. Take a loan from your local bank, pay those bills. It's steady, right? In fact, you can even do like a postpaid internet, right? Like you have, like you just subscribe
Yeah.
to something that you pay every month, maybe like a Wi-Fi
But only after you've
or
used the
like a
service you're
broadband.
paying, so it will
Absolutely. So
appear as
there's a
like servicing a
consistency.
loan. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you build
Yeah.
up for that 6 months. I mean, these are
I mean,
some
the
of the
thing is, to be totally transparent, like everybody knows that we don't have that culture. We're not brought up with that culture of 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 keeping debts, right? Because to us it feels like we are
yeah,
owing money. A lot of people, I mean, if you're brought up in this, you're brought up responsibly, like we will say, like you wouldn't like owing money. So that's the idea a lot of us grew up with, like, okay, I have my money, why should I take debt? But that's how you're able to finance
yeah,
and it's the culture we need to build because I mean, look at it, for example, we get paid you get paid monthly, but the landlord expects you to pay for a year. I
yeah.
mean, that itself might just be something that even drives corruption. Like, okay, let's say I grew up in Osun State, then I got a job in Lagos. My first month, I'm supposed to pay 1 year rent in Lagos. Maybe I earn like 120,000
Mm-hmm.
naira and I'm supposed to pay like maybe 700K the first month of arriving in Lagos. Where do I get that kind of money from, right? So I think it's a culture we need to start building, like, okay, how you can get things on loan,
Yeah,
pay back, and yeah. So
absolutely.
start doing it like Yemi said, start if you're thinking I want to be in the US
Mm-hmm.
August of 2025 in the schools, start building your credit profile maybe a year or even longer before that. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Personally, I don't see any big deal, or I really don't see anything bad in taking a loan. Like, if you are a business person or if you are
of course.
thinking of having your own startup, you want to scale, you just have to like,
No, that's
you
when
have to
people
be very
think you should
comfortable
take
with,
loan,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So, I mean,
absolutely.
just taking loan for the sake of taking it when you don't have any uh big expenses or big investment you want to put money into, you just be thinking, why should I take loan, right?
Right. No, but
So,
again,
yeah.
this is why this kind of sections are really very important, very
Yeah,
informative,
yeah.
because it's all about building a strategy, right? Not like you want to take those loans so that you just
Just
spend the
squander
money,
it.
right?
Yeah.
No, you're not squandering it. You have a
Mm-hmm.
plan. And again, think about it this way. Even if you are going to approach a bank in the next 5 years for your $1 million or 200 million naira, you need history. So if they have not given you 100,000 naira and you've
Can't
paid back,
trust you
why
with
should they
5
give you
million.
10 million?
Yeah.
So this is the thing with people. You will say banks don't give money. They only give money to big people. If you are the bank, are you going to give your money to someone without any
Are you going
credibility,
to give
right?
yourself money?
Are you going to give yourself money, right? That's the question.
Yeah, that's
So
the question.
it's just basic wisdom. So start planning ahead. One of the things we really want to achieve by coming out here to enlighten people is, helping you to build this mental model, like having that change of mind, learning from, other people's experiences and being able to like have a plan, like conceiving the fact that this thing is even possible. Like start thinking like, even if you have a bill of $200,000 school fees, if you have a plan, you get scholarship, you get additional funding, you should be able to like, navigate your way around things. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I also like to say is, I mean, to be great, just check the description of the video. We'll put in some links to those loan providers that you could explore and check with them. So in the description, we add a few links in there.
Okay.
And if you have a question around any of them, just drop in the comment section. We'll be willing to answer them. So, and I mean, we need to get to the third option, which is
before we go to the third option, I mean, like we have a lot to talk about, right? So I was just, thinking about it right now. I'm like, a lot of people are scared about loan. No doubt.
Yeah,
Let's talk about repayment. As if you know where I was going.
I know, right?
How do you pay back? What is the need? What is the need for the banks? Like the people giving out the loan, what is it? People are afraid of interest rates. Will I be able to pay back? What happens if I default? What was the experience around that?
So one thing you need to know is that as an international student, you are high risk, right? Because you can take the loan and go back to your country, and depending on the kind of country you come from, it might be very difficult for the provider to get their money back. So you're high risk, and with high risk should come high benefits. So because they're taking a lot of risk on you, the interest rate is usually very high. Usually they offer you a variable rate, which means as it depends on the economy, the interest rate goes up. If the interest rate goes up, like your interest rate on the loan also goes up. If it comes down, it might come down. So when I took my loan, the interest rate was at 7%, and I found domestic students here in the US that took loan at 4%, 3%, right? So, which was crazy. I thought 7-point-something% was crazy. But by the time I was graduating, 2 years, by the time I was graduating, it was already at 14-point-something%. Can't remember now. So I already accrued interest of like maybe K on the money, which was a lot. And I was paying back while I was in school, trying to pay back the interest while I was in school, just to make sure that the interest
just reduce the burden.
Yeah, just reduce the burden. Like I was paying monthly, maybe $150, $200. I can't remember now, but I was paying something just to reduce the burden. So you should start repaying back while you're in school if you can afford it.
Well, I think, sorry to jump here, but I think typically you don't have to pay back until you start working.
No, you don't have to pay back. It depends on what you sign. So, but usually, typically, they will allow you to graduate. For my own, I was meant to start paying back 8 months after graduation. 8 months after, but during that time, there's deferred interest that is been. So the reason why you have to start paying is when your repayment starts, they add the interest to the principal, and then they will start adding interest combined on the compounded. Yeah. So you don't want, say you took 50K, you've accrued 10K interest, now you are paying interest on 60K, but if you're paying, maybe you have 5K and start paying interest on 55K. So, I mean, those little changes can make those little payments can difference. Make a lot of difference. Yeah. So when you get that interest rate, your goal after graduation will first be how to refinance that loan. Like
absolutely, I was going to get to that.
Yeah, it should be like, okay, I understand this interest rate is high right now, but I need to start thinking about refinancing that. There are a lot of refinancing options.
What is refinancing?
I mean, refinancing is just taking loans from another loan provider to settle your current loan, but you're taking this new loan at a lower interest rate. Yeah, the lower interest rate. Now you've been in the country for maybe 2 years or 3 years, depending on the kind of degree, or maybe even 1 year. So you've built some credit history, like maybe get a credit card. I know Discover gives students credit card, even Bank of America, they give you credit card. You start building your history. So by the time you are graduating, you probably even have a job. So you have a job offer to show that, okay, I can start paying back loans. So at least you have some like footing in the US so you can apply. But right now, I mean, based on my knowledge, the only company that I know that give a non-resident alien, that you have a non-resident status in the US and you don't have a guarantor. The only company that will give you that loan is it's SoFi that I know of.
SoFi, yeah.
Yeah, SoFi that will give you that loan. So SoFi, I mean, they were great. For me, it was from 14% straight to 7%. So they cut the interest rate by half for me. And I mean, that was great. And I was still not even working then, right? But I had my job offer letter. I think that was the only thing I showed them, got it approved. Then I started paying back. So once you get a job, you're able to refinance. Even if you wait till you get a job, refinance the loan to lower interest rate. Then you can start paying back. It could be for a term of 30 years, 20 years. I know that
I
looks
was
like
going
a
to
long
ask you
time.
about the tenor, like
Yeah, it could be
typical
for a
tenor.
tenure of 30, 20, 10 years, depending on how much you want to start paying. So I've seen people take the 30-year option. I've seen people take the 7-year option. So if you're earning a lot of money, that means if you take the 7-year option, then you can make like significant monthly payments to reduce the loan. So in the end, the interest you're paying on the entire loan is lower than if you take the longer tenure of like 30 years. So I've seen people do that. And one good thing about refinancing is you can refinance multiple times, which is what I did. So after refinancing with SoFi, it was even SoFi that even asked me to check whether my rates could be lower again. I checked, I got 5 point something as 5%. And I know people that have done it up to like, now they're like maybe 4.9%, 5, like very cool interest rate. But one thing you need to be careful about is these companies play a lot of gimmick. You have to be, because I've seen people go online and say, I've been paying my student loan since so years, and you feel like it's not dropping. So you need to know how much you're actually paying towards interest versus how much you're paying against principal. So let's say interest of $500 accrues on your loan every month. If you're paying, you need to be paying more than that paying that $500 at the very least. But you need to know how much of that $500 goes to interest and how much goes to principal. If $400 is going to the interest and 100 to principal, you're in a lot of trouble because your principal is not going down. Next one, you're just in one place forever. So you want to make sure that the ratio you're paying towards your principal is higher to the one you're paying to. But sometimes you don't have the option. You don't have a lot of options. Whatever they offer you, that's one thing to think through when you are signing your loan term or when you are refinancing. Another thing is they can come to you and say, it happened to me, right? And they're like, you could reduce your monthly payments to XYZ amount. But you need to do the math. How much have I paid up until now? Don't get
Does it worth it? You need to do that.
Exactly, do the math.
Trade-off.
Okay, right now I'm owing 8K right now. So if I start paying $400 a month, how much does that mean? So if you do the math and it's higher than what you're currently owing, then why should you do that? Yeah, there are people in desperate situations. I understand, like where they can't afford the monthly payments anymore. So they can make a trade-off decision that, okay, in the long term, I want to pay more on interest, but I need to reduce my monthly payments in the short term. But if you're making it as a conscious decision, great.
Yeah.
But don't be tricked into thinking my monthly payment has gone down, let me take the loan. By the time you calculate how much you've paid and because your tenure resets, right? If it's a 10-year loan, you've paid 1 year, you have 9 years left. By the time you resign maybe another 10 years, you're starting all over. Don't forget that you've paid 1 year already. You need to factor that amount in. So, but a lot of people jump on it and they now do the math and think like, okay, this doesn't make sense. I'm paying more ultimately. And they're not always transparent with that. They're not always transparent. So those are the kind of things you need to consider and don't make that mistake. Yeah.
Interesting. Thanks, Amir. If you need more on finance, maybe you need to pay Amir especially for your personal finance class. But I think the point we are trying to make here essentially is to let you see opportunities in student loan, right? And see you can refinance, like you could get access to those loans, like you have 10, 20, 30 years to pay back. Like it's not as difficult.
I even saw people that they took their sign-on bonus from their work and they just paid everything.
And they just paid off, right? And it just become
okay.
And it just become brand new.
Each man to his own.
Yeah. So there's a huge opportunity, and we do hope like you gotten a lot of insights, like your eyes are now, well open to this opportunity. Just before we go for today, I want us to quickly talk about the other option. Don't forget today we are talking about landing in the US, getting admitted into a US school, and you are not really paying a dime from your pocket, right? So, and we believe we really added a lot of value to you. So the third option is getting a student job, getting a job. Like, as you all know, when students come to the US, right, you have opportunity to work. You can work and school, right? So there's also opportunity in that. You can make some income, take care of yourself, and that can also take part. I mean, that can
You
also as
even
well
get
take part
some
of
job
your
experience. Yeah.
right job experience. Then you can take care of your school fees, of your health insurance, and all of that. So I want Ahmed to talk to us about what is a student job, what kind of
Oh,
student
I
jobs
don't think I
are
can
available.
do more justice to it like
Uh,
you do. Yeah, I mean, I know you had a lot of student jobs while in school, but I mean, I did take one. I mean, and that what I did was just tutoring student undergrad in the business school. So
yeah.
there's the business school, the undergraduate business degree, right? So I was tutoring, I think, at business analytics and operations. And yeah, so that was the job that I did. So it was not really intense for me. So whenever I usually get it whenever they were preparing for their midterms or their finals.
Yeah.
Finals, that's when they put time on your calendar and I get paid by the hour. So depends on how many hours that I work. So just
Uh-huh.
log in the hours and I get paid. And I wanted that flexibility back then because I didn't really want to work
Yeah.
too much back while I was in business school. But there were a lot of job options. People did teaching assistants,
Mm.
like supporting professors in classes, in grading,
Uh-huh.
a lot of things. Like there was the entrepreneurship center that hired a lot of my classmates in the business school to support local businesses
Uh-huh.
in a lot of initiatives, and they got paid then. So there are a lot of people funded their education through those channels, right? So you just need to talk to your school. There are so many options, even with businesses like I knew somebody that was working with Panera Bread, and they will hire you, and so but it's limited to 20 hours per week. That's the challenge. So if you're in the US, it's limited to 20 hours a week. But I
Um.
mean, is that something? But I know you can shed more light on that.
Yeah. I mean, before I
What?
shed more light, like how
What?
much can you make on a student job? Like,
I mean,
just
it
give us.
depends, right? I mean, it depends on what they're paying per hour, right? So I don't know how much you can pay because I didn't really max it out. For me, it
Okay.
was more of I was just doing it to get something on the side, and
Uh-huh.
it was sufficient for me. So just
Yeah.
sometimes I know people that were making between 800 and 1,400, 500 a month, and it took care of their living expenses. But for me, it was usually around 250,
Yep.
300 because I didn't do much.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, if I could just weigh in on student jobs, I think the critical thing to mention here is, I mean, if I would advise folks out there is, even if you don't really need a student job, let's say you have scholarship or you've gotten a student loan, from my own experience, and I would say as much as possible, you really want to have a student job. Why? Because it's an opportunity for you to get your social security number. Because as a student, you would not have that social security number. Ahmed was talking about, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, so it's an opportunity for you to start working on
Yeah.
time, get that, right? And once you have an offer letter, once you have any kind of job, then you can start processing that. But just to talk about student job essentially, right? The best approach is still through your school, right? Because you're going to an environment that is totally new, right? So most of the schools have student job sites, right? So you go to those student portals, you see student jobs. Most of those jobs are on campus, right? Jobs that has to do with the universities, maybe like teaching undergrad, being a tutor, and all of that. And the interesting thing, right? The interesting thing about this is that some of those jobs can actually meet your school fees. So one thing I saw clearly was you will see that option when you are applying, like, hey, this particular job will remit school fees. This one will do is a non-tuition remission. So you think it's like tuition remission, non-tuition remission. And you're like, what does this mean? They're simply telling you, like, if we give you this particular job, apart from the stipend that we are going to be paying you for working 20 hours a day, right? We are going to cover part of your school fees. Sometimes they can write 50%. Sometimes they can write 75, sometimes they can have all, right? So, yeah, and I think that's a very useful information. Then again, like Ahmed said, the experience, because again, you are schooling, then you are building that work experience that you need so that when you finish, no employer will be able to tell you you don't have any work experience
Yeah.
here. Especially if you are someone that does not really have so much work experience back from your home country. So you want to tie that into what you are doing, whether even if it's a pro bono or maybe something you are doing voluntarily for something you are being paid for 20 hours, you can always reference those experiences, those skills, because those values, those skills are transferable to your full-time job. Yeah, Ahmed, you want to add anything?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw a lot of my classmates then work with local businesses, and they even built their network. They improved their network with some of those. I mean, some of those. There was one that, I mean, I don't want to just mention a company's name now. I mean, we've been doing that, but I don't know. So the guy who worked with them, they were just starting out. It's a startup now. The company is so big. I see their adverts on LinkedIn now. They're hiring a lot. So I thought it's just some of those fake job adverts, but they're actually doing great now. They're big. Like even that the school has a pipeline for them for internship. Like a lot of people go there to intern, and so you started with the CEO, like just from like sitting on a desk drawing up the business plan, and so you have those kind of people in your network. I mean, in the future you don't know where you need, so it's really I mean, it was great experience. In retrospect, I should have done more in terms of campus jobs and offering my services to local
Interesting.
businesses in there. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Thank you, Ahmed.
and
Our
go back.
time is fast spent. Like there's really, I know we've given a lot of information out there. There's really also much more that we can give. I was just thinking like we could also talk about how to apply for internships, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, I mean, we'll
you know
get there
that
definitely. Yeah, I mean,
applying for jobs, like
yeah,
prepping for those
we'll get there.
interviews,
Yeah,
that
we'll get there.
networking, it's really,
Yeah,
an entire section. Like it's a different ball game. That culture shock is there. That navigating those complexities is really something you want to prepare for. So you can also watch out for that. We're going to be discussing how you can approach what kind of job should you even apply for, right? How do you work on your resume, right? How do you transform, and transpose your resume to something that is acceptable and something that employers out here will really admire. So you can be rest assured, like in subsequent sections, we'll discuss some of that. Yep. I think it's a good place to close or to round it off for today. Ahmed, what do you want to say?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to stay with us and learn a lot from us and the people that will be bringing onto this show. So subscribe right now.
Cool. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, I'll see
See
you in the
you.
next one.
See
Bye.
you some other time. Bye.